People of Reddit who are anti-weed, why? I'm only anti-weed for my personal consumption only. Why? Because I've smoked and eaten enough of it to put a down payment on 2 houses. I currently own less than 1 house, so I've decided to not use weed or any drugs moving forward to try and reclaim my life. Exactly. Other people are welcome to smoke, but I have an addiction that's crippling my opportunities. Weed is bad for me. Agreed. I don't mind people smoking. In fact, I still enjoy the smell of other people smoking. I just don't use it myself anymore. I've always heard people say, weed isn't addictive. Well, it was for me. It consumed my whole day and interfered with my work, my relationships, and my life in general. I'm just as happy saving that money as I was smoking it. People really like to take fact that weed isn't physically addictive to say it's not addictive at all. Psychological addiction is different from physical dependency. I worked quite a bit as a teenager. Multiple jobs, tons of overtime. From 14 to 22, I'm sure I made well over $100,000, all while living at home with very few bills to pay. What do I have to show for it? Years of beating the shit out of my lungs and liver. Some of it helped pay for university, but the rest I smoked, drank, and ate. Better to realize and turn it around now than 20 years from now. I'm against marijuana use for people with a still developing brain. There are many studies to show why. Personally, I find the lazy stoner type to be true in some cases, and I find those people to be very annoying. I have some friends and family like this who stay high most of the day. It's a minority though, I am sure, so that doesn't really inform my general opinion on weed, but it is something I steer clear from when developing new relationships. Edit, yes, feel the same way for drinking. I dated a guy who smoked constantly. I was pretty young and naive, and he told me it helped with his ADHD and arthritis in his hands. We used to go for dates, but after an hour or two he'd eventually be like nudging me to go back to his place. His laundry machine broke, so we went to my place to do laundry. Then after he put the laundry in, it was, I'm bored here, let's go back to my house and hang for 45 minutes and we'll come back. So I drove all the way across town again. This happened all the time. I broke up for other reasons, but it wasn't until after the breakup that I realized he was always pushing to go home because he was sobering up and needed to get high again. He could buy joints and bring them with him, but he had such a tolerance he needed 2 or 3 bong rips, so joints weren't enough. I have personally made a decision to not date people that smoke frequently. Did we date the same person? I had the same experience dating someone who couldn't go long without it. I don't smoke personally and don't care what others do, but having your whole day centered around when you can smoke weed is a lot. He also constantly complained about financial problems while spending hundreds on weed in a month. Lamau, same guy, I swear to God. He blew his rent money on weed, and texted me in crisis because he didn't have the foresight that rent was due on the 1st. Buddy had a part-time job and dropped half his university classes. He played video games all day. No car. Still was constantly overwhelmed by his own bad choices. After a while I was tired of trying to get my own shit together, and having to help him get his shit together too. Been a lot better off without him, lol. I was 21 and he was 25, for reference. My friends that smoke make it their entire identity. They used to have hobbies and were passionate about things. Now they're content with whatever and everything has to be about smoking. My friends and I used to smoke weed every day and then do stuff. I stopped smoking when smoking became the thing we were doing. If that makes sense, lol. Believe it or not, one of my favorite quotes about weed is from South Park. It's Randy talking to Stan. Stan, I've been told a lot of things about pot, but I've come to find out a lot of those things aren't true. So I don't know what to believe. Randy, well, Stan, the truth is marijuana probably isn't gonna make you kill people, and it most likely isn't gonna fund terrorism, but, well, son, pot makes you feel fine with being bored. And it's when you're bored that you should be learning some new skill or discovering some new science or being creative. If you smoke pot you may grow up to find out that you aren't good at anything. This was the quote that has kinda kept me away from it all these years. That warning really rang true to me amidst all the heavy-handed anti-pot messaging. Go figure. I used to really love getting stoned, but eventually it got to the point where it just made me sad that I felt like I had to get stoned before I watched a movie, or played a game, or had a nice meal. I hated that I had a real fear that if I stopped I wouldn't enjoy those things anymore. January 1st, 2022 I decided to give it up, ate my last edible and didn't order anymore. I was undoubtedly a little more of a jerk for the first week or so, but then I caught myself laughing at a show and had this introspective moment of clarity where I realized I was still watching and enjoying movies, I was still enjoying food and games. It's been just over a year now and I don't really miss it at all, and I just kinda feel dumb about how important it used to be to me. I miss the ritual of packing a bowl and the act of puffing on a pipe, but I don't miss being high, truly. I still have dreams where I smoke cigarettes though. I don't think that will ever go away, and I haven't smoked them in 5 years. Don't smoke cigarettes, kids. I quit cigarettes a year ago and still crave them way too much. I thought I'd be over the hump after a year, but I sometimes still get cravings very similar to when I was still a smoker and hadn't had a cigarette all day yet. It's freaking brutal sometimes. 2,5 years without cigarettes, I still want a fucking cigarette every moment I'm nervous or stressed or anything. It's so hard. But it's for my doctor, so I guess I will never smoke cigarettes again. Took me fucking years to shake off the years of weed I smoked. It's all personality. Not everyone that drinks becomes an alcoholic, but as a young kid I definitely was fed the line that it's not addictive and in a weird way good for you. Lots of pluses, but really did take over my life and personality. Yeah, I smoked weed all through high school, pretty much daily, and I wish I never had. It absolutely flattened my personality and ambition, and I don't think I've ever been the same since, despite not smoking anymore. I can definitely relate to this. I think the issue with weed is that it can really fuck up personal development and growth if abused in your formative years. And truth be told, it was so easy to get from 12 to 16. Easier than alcohol. Easier than cigarettes. For me, I think it became really apparent when I'm working on something in my free time and realize how much more I get done when I don't smoke. I still smoke regularly, but not until I'm sure I don't need to utilize my mind for anything for the rest of the day. I'm at this point just because the high is better. Getting stoned when you have to do responsible shit is just living life on hard mode. Waiting till the very end of the day when your shit is taken care of, it really does feel like a mini vacation for a job well done. I'm not anti-weed and I think it should be legalized. But I hate it when people treat it as this magic cure for everything that you can't get addicted to. Telling someone with mental illness that they should just smoke weed is dangerous. Even though it can help, it's easy to latch onto the feelings and make it an emotional addiction. Weed can also cause psychosis and lethargy, so it's definitely not as great as Reddit makes it to be. However, I also believe it's safer than alcohol, which is why I think it should be legalized. Yes. I've seen friends who started with weed helps my anxiety turn into friends who need to be high all the time or they can't relax. At that point, yes, I'm viewing you not able to go more than an hour or two without getting high as an addiction. I've seen friends who started with weed helps my anxiety turn into friends who need to be high all the time or they can't relax. As someone who had a drinking problem for years, and as someone who has smoked acres of weed in my life, I can confidently say that the line between chronic cannabis use and alcoholism is a lot narrower and fuzzier than most pot smokers care to admit. It's not about physical addiction. It's about psychological dependence. If you can't function normally or be happy without consuming your substance of choice, you've got a real problem. Needing to smoke weed every day after work to relax is functionally the same dependence as needing a glass of bourbon every day after work to relax. Back when I used to drink whiskey every day, I was amazed by the number of people who judged me for it while they also got high daily. But it's different. No. It's not. If someone is self-medicating with weed, then stopping is going to be extremely disruptive. This absolutely qualifies as addiction. Moreover, addiction can describe performance of behaviors, gambling, sex, etc., rather than consumption of substances. What matters is that the brain's reward system is going batshit. In my experience, people who argue fervently against marijuana addiction because it isn't physical are usually in some sort of denial. Context: I used to be a total pothead, but I very rarely consume anymore. During my master's I would get high before doing quantum mechanics assignments. Looking back, I don't think that was as helpful as I thought it was. Everyone's experience is different, but I find people will go to great lengths to justify weed habits. I don't care personally what someone decides to do, but I don't like people downplaying the potential pitfalls of weed. I'm not against weed itself, I'm against people smoking it in the downstairs history hall bathrooms and making the entire downstairs smell like weed and then complaining about how no one likes them. Yep, I'm not against weed at all and have smoked it myself, but what smells good to some people is an overpowering awful skunky smell to others. I'm one of the skunk smell people. It's literally my only reason to be anti-weed. So I'm anti-joint, technically. I was a heavy smoker for 6 years. Towards the end, I was going through one once every 2 weeks. Cannabis numbed me from my mental health issues. Any mind-altering substance can aggravate pre-existing mental instability, and weed certainly did for me. My problem with weed culture is that people who are heavy cannabis users think it is completely normal to smoke every day, to depend on this substance whenever they experience hardship. It is a very unhealthy habit that is entirely normalized. If you have a bad day or a bad interaction and your first instinct is I'm going to have a shot of vodka, that will help, you are not allowing yourself to process your feelings at all. It's the same thing for weed, but no one talks about it. Hard agree with this. My partner stopped weed and now he's going through a lot of emotional turmoil and is depressed. I told him that he's finally allowing himself to feel his emotions and that to get over it is to get through them and that I'll be there for him as he goes through it. Very eye-opening. But it's best to go through your own feelings and not numb them. I'm going through this with drinking. I stopped drinking as part of my diet, not thinking it would drop me into a pit of depression and make me realize my dependency on it. It's making me process this shit I have been dealing with for the past 5-ish years instead of just drinking and not giving a shit. I really hate it, but I also am trying to lose weight and get through it because I know once I do I'll feel better, I hope. Not anti-weed per se, but the pro-weed is acting like Therese, no side effects, and it's this completely harmless thing which everyone will respond well to. That's the general consensus I get from very pro-weed people. I'm not anti-weed, but I hate the smell. I don't want to deal with the smell in a public area, same with cigarette smoking. I was looking for this comment. I also hate the smell, surprised I haven't seen anybody else mention it yet. Weed smells far worse to me than cigarettes. Tobacco is an isolated smell that dissipates quickly. Weed just lingers and lingers. I can't stand it. Yeah, I can tell when the guy standing 10 feet from me is smoking tobacco. But I can tell when my neighbors down the block are smoking weed. Weed culture is really annoying, and my friends who peer pressure me into smoking it in spite of my repeated reminders that it doesn't agree with me are equally annoying. Go ahead yourself, just leave me out of it. Bro, I was searching for this answer. Friends or people who smoke and try to get you into it are super fucking annoying. Some of my friends are still trying to get me to smoke one even after years of me saying no to every offer. Man, I had to get off the stuff for years because one day it just gave me the worst anxiety. Couldn't handle it. Went from smoking every day to none at all. Couldn't touch the stuff, and everyone who smokes weed had something to say about how I need to smoke indica, or how weed helps with anxiety. Just try it again. So damn annoying, like leave me alone, I'm fine not smoking. You do you, man. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for daily uploads. After you've done that, check out one of our other videos.